Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining me today on this episode of Cracking the Code.
You're welcome. It's great to be here, Mandy. Thanks for having me.
So, last time on Cracking the Code, we talked about AI, specifically the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing featuring Sam Altman. And in that discussion, we talked a bit about some of the considerations, some of the watchouts for using AI. Today, we want to dig in a little more and talk about, are there any good justifications for the widespread adoption of AI in healthcare and specifically in patient care? Can you tell me what you think about that?
I'm more of a cup half full kind of guy anyway. So this is as much as we talked about the pitfalls, the downfalls of potential AI taking over the world. I think there's going to be some great things happening with the advancement of AI. Specific to improving patient care, there's a lot that AI can do to help us, to help doctors diagnose diseases, particularly the rare diseases, those that we don't know much about. They can help us identify treatment plans that actually may be better than what we've done in the past. If you think about the standard of care, I'm waiting on pins and needles for standard of care to be adjusted or to be altered by some of the outcomes from some AI. It's probably already happening right now. But AI can also, from a patient perspective, help monitor patients remotely. If you think about a nurse practitioner or a doctor or somebody remotely monitoring someone, that's a daunting task. You got to have eyes on glass and looking at the gauges and the EKGs, whatever you're monitoring. And if AI can help identify anomalous behavior in your own body as you're being treated, what a great assistant that makes to free up doctors and nurses to focus on what's the important thing, what the issue is, versus the noise that you just see from the monitors. So those are a couple of my thoughts on the patient care side. There's a lot more we can cover.
So, given all that, and those do sound like excellent benefits for patient care, but what we talked about last time, there are a lot of dangers of AI. Do you really think the benefits outweigh the possible dangers?
I think, given the fact that over 250,000 people, it's estimated 250,000 people die every year from misdiagnosis or medical errors. I mean, that's I don't know, several 747s equivalent dropping from the sky. Yeah, I think it's a great thing. This AI is. I just use that as an analogy for the number of people who die. In this world of AI, if we can prevent even just a couple of thousand, even just one death, using some of these advancements, I think it's a great thing. I'm not going to subscribe to the philosophy of this is going to end the world. Certainly there's those opportunities for AI to do that, but I think there's some great things that can come about using some AI in a purpose-driven way.
That's good to hear, especially on the side of the patient. What about on the inside of a healthcare organization? Is there an upside for healthcare organizations using AI for operational purposes?
When you say operations, like moving patients through a system, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, or anything that you can say about what the upsides would be about how they work inside of a healthcare organization, whether it's streamlining the way they work day to day or longer term.
Yeah, again, I think part of it is AI is going to make a doctor or a nurse or a healthcare provider somehow more efficient, just like it's happening in marketing teams around the world. You're seeing it with developers, you're seeing it with even self-driving cars, those kinds of things that are being able to be making things more efficient. I think it's going to enhance things like telemedicine and remote care. We talked a little bit about remote support, remote monitoring. There are companies right now. These are the coolest companies. One is Canary Speech. It's a great company that takes just a couple of seconds of voice from you, and using AI, it can actually help understand your sentiment, whether or not there's issues that you need to have treated from a medical perspective. Now, think about that from a human perspective. That's impossible almost. You can't necessarily understand the sentiment up against a large language model if you're a human being listening to someone complain about, a headache or something. It's just remarkable what can happen. So these companies are sprouting up all over the place. They're leveraging AI to do things like the treatment. If you can, again, track vital signs remotely and just work on the errors that are happening within a human body or the problems that are happening. You know, I think Google several years ago, I was up on their campus in California, and we saw some of the advancements made on just the eye scans that they were doing, which could help predict cardiac issues later on. Things that we have never even imagined are happening from a healthcare perspective, from an ops perspective. You're going to see more contextual types of information given to a patient as they're walking through a hospital facility. They're already doing this, where you can direct a patient to exactly where they need to go instead of wandering around lost in a hospital. Analytics. Think about analytics and thinking about understanding where patients deviate from their treatment plans or where they deviate from a healthcare network that they're trying to seek care in. I've actually seen customers, or not customers, but patients rather. Some of these analytics portals will allow you to see them desperately searching for a cure for their cancer or whatever, and now we can identify them and help them in a more realistic and in a more real-time perspective. I could go on and on and on with how many advancements are going to be made because of AI in the healthcare space, for sure.
And on a even broader, higher level for, population health management, for research, medical research, what role does AI play? Is it going to become, even deeper into the world of healthcare to make those medical advancements?
Yeah, I mean, it really, we're living in such an amazing time right now. AI can certainly help with precision medicine, if you will. That's where you have a treatment or some kind of a medication that's mapped to your own gene, mapped to your own DNA, that allows you to have a much more effective treatment. Giving someone a bottle of aspirin to say, hey, go see if this helps you, may not do anything for the patient. So if we can help tailor some of these healthcare treatments, these precision medicine prescriptions and engineering, if you will, within the human body, and create these plans that are very specific to you, that's just amazing. To me, that's amazing. If we think about the x-rays that we take, the PACS imaging, all of these images that the radiologists look for, and they try to spot something that's going on within a body. I mean, it's incredible what AI can do to just make that a much faster, much more accurate diagnosis in terms of what the person actually has going on. It's just amazing what can happen. And certainly I think having the protections in place. We've talked about hallucinations within AI. Some would call that mansplaining, if you will, with confidence. I'm going to declare that this is correct and it may not be. So those kinds of things that we talked about in our last episode, we need to continue to think about. But that doesn't mean we fear AI. That means we leverage it in a way that advances mankind.
Mansplaining and AI, that is going to give people a little pause. What do you say? I mean, you've talked a lot about this, but if someone's a naysayer and they say, no, I won't give up my information for AI, what do you say to them that makes it worth it for them to adopt AI, to listen to a doctor who's using AI in how they're diagnosing a patient and treating a patient?
I think it's already out there, honestly. The doctor, the healthcare facility, the healthcare organization, the covered entity, all of the healthcare providers, they're the ones that are ultimately responsible for giving a patient the care that they need. And there's really no way to parse that out. You can't just say, hey, I want to have you treat me, but if they're leveraging AI, you're not going to be able to get treatment. I wouldn't imagine, by saying, hey, do all you're supposed to do, but remove this big piece of intelligence from your toolkit, or your tool belt rather, and let's give it a good shot, see how it goes. Well, what you're going to probably find out is that a doctor probably won't do that. They'll say, we're going to use the tools that we have, we're going to use the intelligence that we have, and we're going to treat you in a way that is responsible. And the doctor still understands what the standards of care are. They still have to go through their normal education every single year and every operation, and they learn things. They're just people will, some of them will resist. I don't see that that's going to be something that's sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To be a patient and get the care you need is going to mean riding the AI wave. And I don't think it's avoidable, like you said. But what does the government and the industry need to do as we move forward to make sure data doesn't get into the wrong hands? What's the part of the individual versus larger organizations here?
I mean, how many times has my data been breached? It's just insane. People will say, hey, the government has this responsibility to throw out this privacy law, or this regulation or that regulation. At the end of the day, it's up to you to be concerned about your own privacy. So again, everybody, I think in the US, since HIPAA has been, or since the OCR has been tracking breaches, I think there's been more than 350 million records breached over time. That's the whole population of the country, give or take. So I think we just have to be aware of our privacy. We have to be aware of those who handle our data, speak up about it. There was a poll that was done, a Harris poll, and you're right. There's many who don't have privacy at the top of mind at all. In fact, over half of Americans who ever used a digital health app, about 58%, they've never even considered where their PHI, their protected health information, goes. And if you go to this, there's a website called the datamap.org. This is a Harvard project where they're trying to track where does data go on one clinical interaction. It goes to hundreds of places. It's impossible to track all that. So you're just going to have to be as vigilant as you can, knowing that data sprawl is a real thing, and your data is everywhere, really. I hate to say that there's really not much you can do about it, but that's a concern that we all have, for sure.
That Harris poll survey was certainly illuminating, I think, for many of us, to see how many people don't understand how their health data is being used. Do you think, with AI becoming so prominent, that what role does transparency play? How transparent do healthcare organizations, apps need to be with people about the fact that AI is integrated?
I've talked about this one with other reporters in the past, where we're talking about a big large data set, and we're talking about another big large data set, and how do you track which one has which permissions, and which record has which consents that are given to do certain things. I literally think it's going to take AI to be able to parse that information in a way that lets organizations track what data came from where, and what consents are in place for whom. A human being won't be able to do that in any kind of efficient way. And I don't even know really at this point how AI can do that at this point. But I know that there are scientists that are working on that challenge just at this very moment.
Great. Chris, as we close out, any final thoughts on AI in healthcare that you want to share?
I would just say, to quote our friends, from one of my favorite rock bands in the 70s, don't fear the Reaper. It's don't fear it too badly. There's always those that will say, hey, yeah, can a drone be targeting somebody who has no business being targeted by a drone, for example, like we heard in the hearings with Sam Altman. but look at the positives. Try to focus on the positive sides of AI. Try to harness that for good, and we'll continue to advance in healthcare and human responsibility and human compassion for sure. Those are my beliefs. Again, I'm an optimist. Some would call me an annoying optimist, but I think there's a lot of great things coming.
Love it. A lot to look forward to. Thank you, Chris, for your time today.
Thank you.